Thank you all. Thank you folks here. Thank you for the folks online. Of course, if there are any questions virtually or from the audience, we're excited to make you a part of this conversation. Please welcome our panelists. I see two of them behind me already. Pancho Moler, hello. And of course, Emily Pascal. Hello, Emily. Good to see you guys. Sorry, the camera's that way for me to look at them. And then we have here the director of Davey's Lullaby, Adam Deyoe. Adam, thank you. Please join us. And Eloise Sherrid, the director of The Body is a House of Familiar Rooms. Eloise, thank you both. Again, a big thank you to all of our partners, but I'll mention AMC Networks for sponsoring all of our short films and Pfizer for sponsoring all of these conversations. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Peter Lubell, who will moderate this conversation. Over to you, Peter.
I know. I was like, hello. Hi. I feel a little underdressed, but I was just tested, so we're cool. Maybe I'll just throw it open to you first. You want to tell me a little bit about your initial inspirations or the impetuses for your films?
Is this working? Okay. Well, the first thing I just wanted to say is that I'm actually a co-director for my film. Lauryn Welch couldn't be here, but the initial inspiration for the film came out of just a desire to collaborate with one another. So we did a artist residency together where we were sort of developing the painting and film technique, and then realized along the way that what we were making was a really good way of expressing the experience of her partner, Sam. And so wanting to tell that story in a way that expressed a invisible condition, but making it extremely visible was sort of how it all came together.
Yeah, how quickly when you were looking at her work did that connection come to you, and that dialogue or discussion you could have in the film?
I think our initial development stage really only lasted about a month when we did a residency together, but then the process of making the film flowed from there. So the entire process took about 4 years between filming and then animating and her painting and us sort of developing where the story would go.
But I just mean, did you get that connection between her work and her partner right off? Was that?
It grew from the initial collaboration. Yeah.
Great. And Adam?
Hello. The initial inspiration of it, it's kind of a long story, so I'm not going to go into every detail, but if anybody wants to talk to me about it outside, I'll be happy to. But long, sad story. I started making this movie in 2011, I believe, and it was live action, and it was a feature, and it was starring my friend Gene. We shot about 25% of the film, and he died during the making of it. It was very difficult. Long story short, I mostly make horror movies, and I was about to shoot a feature in Hawaii on the 2020, April 1st, and that obviously got canceled, and I was very depressed. And my wife said, well, have you ever thought about revisiting that thing about your friend? And I was, no, it's too sad, I can't. And it's a pandemic. So she said, well, what if you took the feature and made it a short, and you've always wanted to do stop motion? This is the first time I've ever done it. And it went from there. I made an 8-page thing and made some puppets. I learned how to felt and built a bunch of crap in my garage and made little clay things. And almost 2 years later, it was done. Every night I worked on it.
It's amazing. And was it the same story or similar to the one you were working on with Gene?
A much smaller story. It was that's kind of like the inciting incident of the feature. But I also got discouraged, not not in a bad way, but this movie Peanut Butter Falcon came out, a few years ago, and it was almost identical to my script. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ. And so, yeah, so I just kind of took some of the sad parts and, the inciting incident didn't have the whole journey. It was also the other actor that was going to play, that's about wrestling as well. I'm looking for a wrestler. It was so identical. And this is also sad, sorry, but I had Rowdy Roddy Piper, the famous wrestler, to play that part, and he died while we were doing that too. So yeah. I don't know why I laughed at that. Yeah.
And Emily, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, can you hear us?
Yes.
Wonderful. Hello.
Hello.
I'll start off here. We created our film for the Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge, so it's a little bit different from the folks there in person. We actually had 5 days to come up with a story, write it, shoot it, edit it, do the whole thing. It was a Wednesday through Sunday, and I'll let you talk more about how you came up with the concept.
Okay, yeah, and Stephen and I the Easter Seals Disability Challenge basically is you have to have someone with a disability either in front of or behind the camera. And I've entered this challenge 3 years in a row. My buddy Nick Novicki is the CEO of it. He's the one that runs it. And he's been doing it for the last 9 years. And we've entered this competition 3 years in a row. And finally, our film got seen. We came up with a good idea. It was a mockumentary. That was the genre. And then you had to have a reveal in there, have a picture in there. Like there's all these things that come with these challenges. And my buddy and Steve and I kind of just came up with this idea of two brothers, and he actually thought of the name Dwarfo-Psychosis. And we wanted just to kind of do something where we don't showcase the disability. It's never really seen. And we wanted to kind of teach through humor, and also, we wanted to show a lot of heart in there, and I believe we were able to accomplish that. But at the same time, it was just it was a family affair. Stephen's wife directed it, my wife produced it, and then Steve and I wrote it and starred in it, and and that's kind of how it came to be. And it was kind of we were just having fun the whole time, and that was what was great about it. And then the fact that we were able to come up with such a great idea to the point where people were asking if Dwarfo-Psychosis was a real thing. It was no, it's not. This is not real. This is,
I was just going to say, it is a great title, and I was thinking maybe you could lobby for it to become entered into some recognized.
So.
Oh, no. Well, also with that said, we were able to since it got into a bunch of film festivals without us submitting it, we decided to expand on it, and we created a proof of concept with it. We shot it during COVID. We even incorporated some of the actors from the Easter Seals Disability Challenge in it to be in it, because what we're trying to do is normalize disability and not stigmatize it,
Great. I'm curious, as Isaac was saying at the start of this program, you have to, you got to find some way of categorizing films and then creating a program. Do other than the obvious relationships in each of your films, do any of you see any connections between your films?
Love. And I think a tenderness, and the relationships between people who are disabled and their loved ones. That I was sort of just repeating relationships as a theme, wasn't it? Well, it seems like a pretty good category.
They're all very emotional, and even a comedy one is just I wasn't expecting to be crying at every single thing. So that's a connection for me. I cried every single time.
Lauren! This is my co-director.
Not a Zoom bomb.
Lauren.
Lauryn Welch is joining us as well.
Hello.
I don't want to interrupt. Please keep talking.
The other connection, the way specifically yours, all the visual effects work and all of this, like, I can't even fathom the amount of time and everything that took for you. Like, I was sitting there at all those blinks in my movie. Those weren't stop motion. That was digital. I was there painting out eyeballs for every night for 10 hours for a year, you know? So I just really was impressed by that on yours.
You understand my pain.
Roto.
So much roto.
So much roto in your movie.
Lauren, may I ask you, how did you, what was it like to see your two-dimensional work become three-dimensional in this way?
It was, also I apologize for my voice, I'm losing it a bit. It was first of all, it was a very long process. Some of it was very frustrating because any little change takes like 10 hours to do. But Eloise and I are probably the best team I could ever imagine having. She's my favorite collaborator, and I felt an enormous amount of trust knowing that the paintings, first of all, getting the beautiful live action that she got for the film, but then taking all of the paintings that I did of the live action and working together to collage them in. There was a lot of trust there, and I feel very honored that I could have that relationship with her and putting it together.
Love you too.
Love you, BB.
Excellent. Maybe I'll just turn over to the audience. Do we have any questions?
I'm just curious if you guys have any projects you're working on now. Touch a little bit on expanding one of the films, but like what else is going on?
Okay. All right. I am about a week away from finishing a new feature I just did. I actually got to make that movie in Hawaii about 6 months ago. We went and blew up a lot of stuff, and it's a zombie movie with hundreds and hundreds of extras and boat chases and heads blowing up and all kinds of things like that. So I'm really excited about that one. So it's a sequel to a movie I made a long time ago. So I'm really excited about that. I really want to expand on Davey. I have a Western idea for starring basically him. So
is there a title for the zombie sequel?
Oh yeah, it's called Decade of the Dead. It takes place 10 years after the apocalypse.
So it's a comedy?
No. It's a real somber movie, actually. But it's pretty gross. That's kind of funny sometimes, right?
Can't wait.
Thanks.
Lauren and I are working on a documentary about mail art, which is not M-A-L-E art, but M-A-I-L art, which is art sent through the postal system, which is this whole genre of work that Lauren is involved with on a family capacity as well as on sort of a global network capacity. And so we've been wanting to look at that.
Yeah, my father, my dad, Chuck Welch, and I think my family is in the Zoom here. So hello. But he's a mail artist, and he has an archive of mail art correspondence, zines, things sent through the mail with his giant network of other mail artists and friends that is about 40 years or 100,000 pieces worth of artwork. And a lot of the male artists of his generation are getting older, and some of them have passed away during COVID. And so there is a desire to safely shepherd this mail art archive to places where it can be preserved and seen and used as an education tool for other artists and other people, and bring up the next generation of male artists. So the film, which our working title is An Anxious Object, is about that generational passage.
I guess we're next. Is that? After we did this short film, we formalized our production company, Non-Standard Productions, and we're focusing on creating content by people with visible and invisible disabilities. It doesn't have to be about that, but we want to start a place where we can fund those projects. We currently have Dwarfo-Psychosis, the proof of concept, the series that we're trying to go out and pitch now. We also have Non-Standard Love, which we wrote together, and it is a kind of a rom-com workplace comedy about how we met. We met on a Broadway tour, a holiday production, and so it's kind of set a relationship comedy within a show, putting on a show. And then we're working on a project. It was a documentary, but it may be shifting to narrative that's based on the contribution of little people to the World War II effort, which very few people know about the work that they did. And we want to kind of share that with everyone. So that's what we're working on currently.
And what show did you meet on?
The Radio City Christmas Spectacular. Yes, the Rockettes.
She couldn't get enough of me.
We have a question from somebody from one of our folks online. Colin, please share.
Hello. So the question is similar to the issue of colorblindness. On one hand, we want our relationships to be seen as normal or just the same as everyone else. So how do you balance that while also not making differences invisible and making the things that make people unique invisible?
I have a thought on that. I've never answered, had this question, but I was thinking about it when I saw it in the chat. And I think, at least for our shows, it's not about normalizing in kind of like getting rid of it. It's kind of just showing that that a lot of the things are similar. We have differences, and that's kind of what the show about our relationship is, because rarely do you see an average sized woman and a little person, man, together in a serious relationship and what we go through. And a lot of those things are very similar to two average sized people. But there's also kind of differences that we want to combine those two and just show you what our daily life is, and that it's, funny and awkward and uncomfortable, just like everyone else's.
Lauren, do you want to take this one?
Sure. I think it's different in every case, and for every person who is experiencing sickness, chronic illness, disability, every person has their own needs or desires versus being seen or wanting to be seen as like everyone else. I think like in our case, Sam himself is an extremely private person, and but also is extremely frustrated by the way that he is treated, because his body or his illness is invisible, and so the expectations for him are ones of normative societal kind of thing. And so that's been a challenge in the making of the film itself, is how do we respect Sam's privacy and not ogle or let other people ogle, and how do we not make it seem like something that is dramatized, but still pay respect to the experience, and to the love between us. And so I'd say the Body is a House of Familiar Rooms is a starting point to that, and one that we are continuing to learn and grow through, both in all three of our artistic practices.
I can just talk about, of course, my specific movie. I didn't really think about exactly that question. It was really based, aside from the death of the mother, it was completely based on my friend. So it's just every single thing he did. And I have, footage of it. I mapped that all out. Like his bedroom, the posters on his walls, those were all in his actual room. Where the TV sits, the wrestling matches that he watches. I was just trying to be as authentic as I could, but with puppets. So I had a purpose I did want to show that he was different, and because he needed a lot of help, and he couldn't do it all by himself, and we all had to be there. And I don't think a lot of people know what can happen to adults that have disabilities, that have very serious needs. And it was just based on him, and it was based on another friend of his who had parents that were in their 80s, and they would talk to me we'd go bowling, and they would always say, I don't know what's going to happen when we're gone. I don't know what we're going to do. And we're worried, and it made me worried. And that's why I made that. I think that might answer it.
I think we're out of time.
Oh, we're out of time.
I want to give Peter, any final words?
No, I just want to thank you all for your beautiful, emotional, and love-filled films. And thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you all for coming.
They were all so wonderful.
I want to thank the filmmakers. Thank you for joining us in person and virtually. Thank you to our audience at home. Thank you for our audience in person. Please join us for more. Next up in this room at 4 p.m. Is our Out of the Box shorts. It's just a grouping of more amazing shorts that might not tie together as perfectly as this one did. Thank you again for being a part of this, and tell your friends and join us for more programs. Thank you all, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much.